Okay, so in today's video, guys, we are going to be going through the top 10 most important Piggy notes of all time. So today I'll be rounding up all of the notes that did have quite a fair bit of relevance at the time and still does to this day. Some of these notes are extremely important for the Piggy storyline, so it is extremely important for you guys to know exactly what they are. But first, if you guys could be using Star Code Antics when you're buying Robux or Premium, that would be much appreciated. And of course, if you do, make sure to take a picture, send it to me over on Twitter or Discord so that I can show my appreciation. So guys, the top 10 most important Piggy notes of all time, let's get into this. Number 1, don't trust the SI. Now this one at the time was extremely important, and I still believe to this day is still very important, because a lot of people think that now this is don't trust the silver paw. However, I believe that this says don't trust the signal. I'm not going to ramble on about this one too much, but this was a very important Piggy note to actually consider, because maybe in the future of Piggy we're actually going to find the second half to this note and finally get some confirmation as to what this note actually meant. Number 2, she knows. Now in the ship chapter, we actually had 2 notes that really threw a little bit of a spanner into the works, and those 2 notes are also split up across the map. So this one right here is literally on the staircase, just behind some pipes, and it literally just says she. But then if we go to the other one, which is literally just on the top of the ship, it says knows. Now this is interesting because it says she knows. Now we know that Budgie is quite the liar, so does that mean that Budgie knows something that we should be knowing as well? Budgie has some secret up her sleeve that she is not saying. So what could that theory be, guys? Well, let me know in the comment section down below if you do have any theories on this note. Number 3, Patient Zero. So this note was found in the Metro, right in the drawers at the bottom kind of level, and this one basically reads out saying Patient Zero was given substance 128. Patient has been restoring strength, but also displaying signs of aggression. Now, who exactly is Patient Zero? Is it Penny? Is it Mrs. P? Well, this note does actually confirm that the substance or the vaccine that was given to these patients was called Substance 128. Now, I'm sure that we're going to be looking for some secret in the future actually relaying back to this note, because I'm sure that we're going to be trying to find this Substance 128 towards the end of Piggy Book 2. And the fact that the patient has been restoring health, but you know, displaying signs of aggression, that definitely means that this Substance 128 is not good for Patient Zero. Number 4, light the beacon. Now, of course, this one can be found in the sewers, just on the top underneath that like classroom type thing that's going on with the weird little Insolence eye inside as well. Now, this note just literally reads out saying, light the beacon, summon it. Now, the question that I have is, what if we've actually already summoned it? Of course, as you guys are aware, we did summon Mr. Stitchy in the forest. So does that mean that the beacon has already been lit? Does that mean that Mr. Stitchy has already been summoned? Does that mean that the player, the detective, is responsible for spawning in Mr. P? Well guys, only time will tell. Number 5, she broke out. Now this note is found underneath a bench inside of the mall chapter. Now this one reads out saying, she broke out, but she's somewhere. We need to find her and gather supporters. Now this one is extremely interesting because somebody that was in the mall knows about Mrs. P. I'm assuming that this note right here is speaking about Mrs. P because she was up in that window in the chapter before this, so I'm pretty sure that whoever wrote this note is talking about Mrs. P. However, that does mean that Mrs. P is out there somewhere. We don't exactly know where she is, but we know that she's roaming the world of Piggy. And the the fact that they needed to gather supporters, does that mean that this is TSP trying to literally find Mrs. P? Are TSP literally holding one of the biggest secrets inside of Piggy, that they know where Mrs. P is? And why exactly are TSP after Mrs. P? And why do we need to find her? These are quite a few questions over just one note. Number 6, the first TSP signs. Now, of course, TSP was introduced in the carnival. Now, we've got 3 notes in the carnival that are signed by TSP. So, here goes. The first one being, to those looking for safety, this is the worst place to look. TSP. Now, that one is right in the entrance of the carnival. The next one reads out saying, do not open, monster inside. TSP. So TSP literally left Foxy in there because that note that you can see just behind basically says, why did my friends leave me in here? Now, Foxy did in fact used to be a part of TSP, and TSP did actually lock Foxy inside of that cage. And finally, the last note of this one basically reads out saying, Doggy and Foxy got what was coming to them. TSP. So for some reason, TSP have this hatred towards Foxy, the same level as they do Doggy. Now, what actually did Foxy do to TSP? And why is Foxy confused that his friends left them in there? Because if Foxy thought that TSP were friends, like he was in this group, everybody was friends, and then all of a sudden they left him in there, but TSP have a reason apparently behind it to lock him in there, it just doesn't necessarily make sense. So apparently whatever Doggy and Foxy have done, of course we've got a pretty good idea what Doggy has done because he's arrested Willow and stuff like that, but Foxy doesn't really explain an awful lot. We've never really seen Foxy at all. The only time that we've seen Foxy is the times that he's in that cage, and that he also tried to come and get us at the end of the carnival chapter. Number 7, the distorted memory notes. Now, I really feel like these notes are really going to play a part in the final of Book 2. Now, there are quite a few notes in the Distorted Memory chapter, so we're just going to go over them just to make it nice and fresh. Now, the first one can be found on the wall, which is literally right where that gold safe is, underneath where that kind of coffin type thing is, where you put the dinosaur and the robot. Now, this one reads out saying, they left you when they went to volunteer. So does this mean that they're talking about, you know, George's family neglecting George? I mean, yeah, strange. The next one says, now you relive that night every time you sleep. So I'm basically thinking that this is in regards to George, because we know that George is infected, that George actually relives whatever happened that night every time he sleeps. The next note says, they were fine when they came back, but a few hours while you were asleep, something came over them. They weren't the same. So of course it takes a little while for the infection to actually kick in once they return. And finally, the last one, which is literally right at the bottom inside of the basement, says, where to, George? I mean, whatever this is, it looks as though it is kind of messing around with George. Number 8, she's gone. Now, this note right here literally gives some confirmation as to what has happened with Mrs. P. Now, this note is right where the helicopter is inside of the outpost, and this one reads out saying, I looked for her in the forest. She's gone, just as Bunny is. So, of course, Mr. P knows about Bunny's existence. He knows that she is now infected, and it looks as though he looked for her in the forest. I'm assuming that her is Mrs. P, and I'm assuming that Mr. P actually found Mrs. P and realized that she is infected. Now, this could actually explain the whole cyborg thing that's going on. It looks as though he used or created this cyborg type thing to maybe find the infected. And then once he's put this whole cyborg thing on, it's basically turned him insane. So I do like this note. I think that this note is one of my favorites inside of Piggy. I don't know why. I think it's very simple, but it kind of just explains an awful lot inside of one note. Number 9, the secret TSP member. Now, we have spoken about this a tiny bit. There is potentially another TSP member out there that we do not yet know. Now, I don't know if there is or not, but the sounds of this note literally sounds as if there is somebody out there still that we haven't yet met. So this note is found in between the washing machines inside of the refinery, and this one reads out saying, "Dear Kitty, quit putting your pink clothes with our uniforms. My uniform is pink now thanks to you." And inside of TSP, there is still nobody yet to be seen with pink uniform. I mean, Willow has purple on her, but that's about as close to pink as we have gotten. There's definitely nobody in TSP with pink uniform. And finally, number 10, the Mr. Stitchy notes. Now, of course, this one had to make an appearance inside of this video. Of course, these notes really do mean quite a fair bit, and they are still inside of Piggy, which does mean that the entire thing is still canon, and these notes were released alongside the release of Mr. Stitchy. Now, the first note can be found right down the side by the carnival kind of eye type thing, and this one reads out saying, "Someone began to disrupt the countryside. The descriptions of witnesses matched his look. I never saw him again." The next note can be found inside of the school right behind the exit door. Now, this one says, "I gave him a face. I was his only friend." Now, how interesting is that now that we do know that there is actually a friend skin that you can spawn in inside of the port chapter. The next one can be found at that broken down shack inside of the forest, and this one says, "Do not draw the house with light. It will draw him too." And finally, the last one is right by the exit inside of the carnival, and this one reads out saying, "When he learnt of my condition, he grew sad and frustrated. He left." So it looks as though Mr. Stitchy was in fact somebody at some point, and it looks as though that he was also neglected at some point, which is potentially what has caused Mr. Stitchy to grow into this entire potentially insolence persona. But anyway, guys, if you do have any theories on that top 10 notes inside of Piggy, then of course let me know in the comment section down below. I will be down there checking out all the comments, so if you guys do have any good suggestions, I will more than likely do a video on it. But anyway, that's going to be it from me today. Hope you guys did enjoy today's video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we shall see you guys in the next one.